Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AwardsWatch Podcast. I'm your host today, Erik Anderson, editor-in-chief of AwardsWatch, and it is, once again, an editors-only podcast. We are talking awards, we're talking film festivals, and we are just a few days away out from the end of TIFF of Toronto. So we're going to talk about Venice, Telluride, Toronto, and where the race is now. So, of course, joining me are my executive editor, Ryan McQuade,
Hello.
and associate editor, Sophia Ciminello.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Telluride gang.
What's up?
We're back in the comfort of our own homes now to record, not gathered around a microphone at the table.
Well, we were technically in separate rooms.
I
You and
forced
I were
everyone
together.
in separate
Yes.
rooms as much as we possibly could. As
I was like, get Erik away, restraining order.
or
The room next door.
figure.
There you go.
Very room now.
The room downstairs.
Like I said right at the top, we're talking about Venice, Telluride, and Toronto because they are now in the past, and they gave us some kind of fun little left turns with winners and new pickups from the festival by studios that we were waiting to hear about, and some that we weren't expecting. And I think that's led to, as it often does, lots of very knee-jerk reactions, very reactionary, dramatic prediction changes. And sometimes it's really valid and it's worth it. And sometimes things are really mostly still the same. And it's better to be a little bit pragmatic than to be kind of over the top. And what we have is the Venice winner was Pedro Almodóvar's The Room Next Door, which is still amazing to me that it's his first major film festival juried win.
Yeah.
In his career. That just knocks me out. But just kind of jumping off of that a little bit, did that surprise you guys? Because I think a lot of people were really deep in thinking that The Brutalist was going to win that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I thought that The Brutalist was going to win for sure. I was part of that group, just given the rapturous response to that movie coming out of the festival. But looking at the list now, I do think that Brady Corbet winning director makes sense. I think that's a really strong win for that film heading into the rest of the season. And what was odd is that, I think in looking through some of the reactions online, since we weren't at that festival, it seemed like The Room Next Door was getting this sort of mixed positive response, like not one of his best movies, a little bit, the dialogue maybe felt stilted as an English language feature for him. But then I saw this grid of a number of European critics, and it actually had the highest score of all of the movies. So I thought, okay, maybe this is actually just my bubble, and the response to this film was a little bit different. And I think, we have to take into account the jury too, and how they give out their awards, and each jury is different. I mean, Joker won the Golden Lion, so it can really just depend on the group who's putting the list of winners together. But I'm never going to complain about an Almodóvar movie winning a big award, even if it isn't one of his best. And who knows, we'll see it very soon. We could really end up loving it.
Yeah, I mean, Sophia mentioned Joker won and Roma's won this, The Shape of Water, Nomadland, Poor Things. These are all films that were in deep Oscar consideration years later. I mean, there was also Happening in 2021 and All Beauty and the Bloodshed. Those were in and around award season as well, too. So it's a good thing to have for this movie. We also have the announcement this week of both Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton are going to be campaign and lead, which is a choice, considering they also have Saoirse Ronan in The Outrun from Sony Pictures Classics. So they have a ton
Fernanda Torres for I'm Still Here.
That's true. So they have 4 performances that they are pushing into lead actress, which is that'll be very interesting to see how that plays throughout the season. I wasn't shocked because I know you guys might roll your eyes at me a little bit here, but per what everyone said, it did have one of the biggest standing ovations at the festival. I did see a lot of positive reactions, and I think a lot of those positive reactions carried over to people seeing it at TIFF as well too, which is good for it. We can talk about maybe some of that, the crossover there between certain festivals and how certain films favored over others. And I think that did well. I kind of felt The Brutalist was going to just be a director prize win because of the achievement of that movie from what we've heard. I mean, sight unseen, I know we are all seeing it within or like the next 10 to 15 days we will have all seen it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Um but that felt like a directorial achievement, and they obviously gave Nicole Kidman Best Actress for Baby Girl, and this felt like the Golden Lion as an achievement for to celebrate the entire film, as well as also Almodóvar, who even mid-tier Almodóvar is better than like 95% of releases in a given year. And it's hard to, I think, really judge a new Almodóvar film until the viewer sees it, because so many people put his films, as they rightfully should, up against his best. And his last film, Pain and Glory, is one of his best. So, and this is also, I read about, some people had a little bit of a disconnect between him jumping into English language feature, but then really picked up towards the third act. So very excited that we're all going to see that at New York Film Festival coming up soon. So I wasn't surprised by there. I have been, I mean, not necessarily shocked, because our own Sophia Ciminello kind of put all her chips in the middle of the table early before anybody else did, before even Venice announced it. She did. You did. And I have to give credit where credit's due of The Brutalist, and it coming on very strong. And it is now one of the hot tickets out there on the festival circuit. It is. I mean, when it was at TIFF, people were getting turned away hours before the screening. It was very hard for people to get in there. I mean, it's already kind of the same in New York. They have like 5 screenings and multiple screenings are sold out. It was picked up by A24. And that's huge, I think, because obviously A24 has Sing Sing, and they have Queer, and they have like the 900 other films that they have that they usually release. And, but this one feels like this is their new big player, and it has a lot of passion for people to see it. Plus, I mean, it has 900 people talking about that it is a masterpiece, and everyone that's seen it is the new American epic. So we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, a lot of positivity for those two films out of that festival that carried over to TIFF.
Yeah, I was a little side-eyeing a lot of the responses that people had to this jilted dialogue. I wondered really where a lot of that was coming from, and what their like real, I guess maybe knowledge of Almodóvar is,
or agenda,
and the just the telenovela type of language that he uses, and dialogue that he uses, and staging of that dialogue.
Yeah.
Now, and I can see maybe some of it is quite literally lost in translation as it becomes an English language feature, but far be it from me to not completely trust Isabelle Huppert to make the right choice as president of a jury. Far be it.
I mean, to also
the legend
her ever. So
I mean, to also trust Almodóvar as well, one of our great filmmakers out there too. Like, come on,
it's also like it's very common if you look throughout film history for European directors or filmmakers who don't work in English language primarily to make a feature in English, and a lot of those films are very strong. So I think I was also side-eyeing those responses a little bit.
Yeah, just a little, but no, it's fine. We have yet to see it at this time, so we can only side-eye from afar. So just this weekend was the end of the Toronto international film festival.
Sure
11
was.
days, very, very long, lots of films, lots of world premieres like Night Bitch. And
Would you call me?
there wasn't a comma in there, but if you want me
Yeah.
to add one, I absolutely can.
I mean, it sounded like a little pause there, not
a
gonna
little
lie.
bit. But also, interestingly enough, and this happens every year at TIFF, you have a couple of these movies that world premiere from relatively big directors, and then that's kind of really not where they begin and end, but it's a little bit like that. I think Ron Howard's Eden and John Crowley's We Live in Time sort of like this was their moment, and it's not really going to be something that we're going to hear
Good for them
again, I think.
Yeah,
Mhm.
good
Exactly.
for them.
Yes, good for them. You know, big
Yeah.
festival.
You know what?
Big
Good for
gowns,
TIFF
beautiful gowns.
because they needed the stars back, and they sure got them, regardless of the quality of those movies.
Yes. But obviously, the big news out of TIFF is always the People's Choice winner, and its very deep connection with Oscar Best Picture and nominations. And what did we get? We got Mike Flanagan's The Life of Chuck, a movie with no distribution, but had, I think it was nine screenings. Nine screenings. So definitely helped it out a little bit.
Yeah.
And
helped out the top three, honestly.
yes, the top three was a relatively predictable top three. Amelia Perez was first runner-up. Anora was second runner-up, and it only had like 4 screenings. Anora did, so
that's more telling than anything, I think.
And
I love to hear it.
We kind of jumped over Telluride a bit, but
well, we did a whole show on that.
On top of its Palm win at Cannes, was the top vote getter from Michael Patterson Telluride blog, where he conducts polls from both critics and industry and then non-industry people. And it was the highest rated narrative film on both sides. So I mean, I think most people had it as a very serious contender, but you know, if you don't now, I'm not really sure what to tell you. That was pretty fantastic.
I was a skeptic. I was a skeptic out of Cannes, just because, again,
Neon Palme d'Or. How can you be a skeptic from that?
Well, because I've seen Titan happen, and I've seen, and also too,
apples and oranges.
I understand that, but still, not every year means that it crosses over. And
pretty good.
I know, but also too, it's an American film, and so I kind of, and it's Sean Baker, who hasn't had a lot of crossover success, and it's also like the people that we saw that were reacting the most out of it. It wasn't the most reliable sources in my bubble. So I was like, I need to see this movie to understand if it has the goods. And then we saw it at Telluride, and it was when I sent out my stuff to Michael, because I was asked by Michael to do so, it actually ended up being my top film of the festival upon retrospect. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, we all love the film. We all think it's great.
Yeah.
I think that it only having 4 screens at TIFF, and it being already, again, sold out at a bunch of screenings in New York, and at Fantastic Fest and a bunch of other places that it's going to be, and it's already nabbing or presenting itself as prizes throughout the the little or smaller regional festivals that are in October that I've already seen. This movie is a real force in the season, and Neon has a potential winner on its hands. And so, yeah, it's a real deal, and I love the film. So I'm owning up to my doubting of it. And I think that, but I think that it's okay, because seeing is believing, right? We can't just take the word of people. You have to see these films. And I wonder about its path for multiple wins. But I do see the passion behind it. And it's like The Brutalist. When it's shown up, people have been turned away in massive lines to see this movie. Those are the two movies that have been with the passion. And as we've
Well, it's giving Anatomy of a Fall is what it
well,
is.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
And it goes back to a question I think you asked. This is to half answer your question from a couple episodes ago, Erik, about what wins Best Picture. How does it carry through the fall from these fall festivals? It's you have to follow the films that have the passion, that the audiences are getting turned away, the hottest ticket. That has translated over the last couple of years from those fall festival films into the ones that are the serious Oscar contenders down the road. And I think that those two for those studios are the big tickets to and must-see events.
I think with Anora, the big question for people who, I mean, and us, but especially people who had either seen the film at Cannes or had seen it prior to Telluride was, how is this going to play with the Telluride crowd? Because it is, it's a riskier movie. It's, a film that I think on the surface level, you could say, oh, older voters aren't going to like that, or, a certain type of voter isn't going to like that. But then when push comes to shove and you actually put the movie on in front of people, that's not the opinion that they have. And whenever that starts to happen with a movie, it's important to not dismiss that or go back to that assumption that you might have had of the movie before. And I think that's what's happening with Anora, like it performing well at Telluride, TIFF, and Cannes. And I mean, there's no way it doesn't perform well at New York. That crowd is perfect for that movie. And I think if we're thinking about path and, potential awards, this movie, it has many chances all season. I still think its strongest places are in original screenplay. That feels like a great place to reward Sean Baker and Mikey Madison, who I think has a serious shot in actress. But I would be so excited, and we have to start talking about this. I'm just going to start manifesting. We need a supporting actor to get in. That would be really cool.
There's multiple performances. I think we all know which one we would prefer. But I think that there's multiple performances in that film, and I think the editing and the cinematography are fantastic.
Direction,
it's like a 6 to 8 film, probably nomination, maybe. But it could just be
I think it's 4 to 6.
4 to 6.
Realistically,
all right,
where it's going to max.
Yeah, but we never know. You never know.
Picture, director, actress, screenplay, those big ones feel right for it. But if we could get a little sneak in there.
Yeah, I mean, like
that'd be fun.
If it gets editing, we know that it is a player, and it's going to do fine with, since it's a comedy, it will get, the Ace Eddie in comedy will probably win.
And Anatomy of a Fall got that editing.
Exactly. So there is room there, but
and if it's a top 5 film,
there are 4 supporting actors in this movie that are so absolutely fantastic, and there's
perfect
hard to solidify. Yeah.
They're not going to coalesce around one of them, so I don't have a whole lot of faith in.
It'd be a great SAG ensemble, honestly, if they have individual cards. I didn't see
I wouldn't be mad at that.
You know what I mean? Just because you think it's just about her, but then the movie opens up in the second act, and it really becomes as much of an ensemble piece as it is as her journey, and it's fantastic. You know what I mean? So
yeah. Speaking of SAG ensemble, I'm kind of surprised that Saturday Night didn't place somewhere, or just because of Reitman's connection with that festival and the Canadian love, I would say, like the hometown advantage, if that exists. So I think it not showing up here, like these 3, I think do make sense as you look at them. I think there are 2 though outside, Saturday Night and The Wild Robot, which I could have seen either of those getting in, but Saturday Night is especially interesting, I think.
It's especially interesting because it had its world premiere at Telluride, which was a very bizarre choice, and with none of the cast there at all. And the response was very, very, very good. Cut to Toronto, the entire cast is there. Like 20 members of the cast are there.
It was the full stage. Even Defoe, even Simmons, everybody.
And it doesn't place that there's something, I don't know, something in the works, and I'm kind of feeling pretty low on it as I was before and after I saw it. So I
I don't
feel
know. I mean,
okay about that.
there's, obviously it'll be out soon
Yeah, it's
in
coming out
theaters.
before it's coming out in September instead of on the anniversary like it was
Yeah, it's in
planned.
limited and then it
Mhm.
goes wide on in October. We do know that the Middleburg Film Festival announced that Reitman and his editor are getting a special prize there. So they will be throughout the season. No, I know Eric's giving it like a thumbs up, like a good little participation trophy, but that is notable. And we'll see. I mean, like it was still a very positive reception for it. It not winning the audience award. It was, I don't know if being, I haven't really tracked it, but being that it was sort of later in the festival rather than the beginning. Obviously, I think that the one we're sort of just kind of dancing around is the actual winner of the audience
I
award,
know
which
I
is The Life
started
of
there
Chuck.
and then we had to backtrack,
We
We wanted to talk
backtracked,
about
but
Anora.
I know
yeah.
we did. I know, but like
And
I think
now we have to talk about a movie that actually won.
I think that I was going to say this before we started recording, and I said it, saved it for our show here. Um, Eric has talked to me over the last couple of years just about how we can't be so precious to our beautiful stats and how much we love stats and everything. I firmly believe that this is a year where this stat is going to break. And if not, then I will be more than happy to come back on this show and say that I was wrong. But this has no distribution. It doesn't seem like an awards player at all in terms of the movie, from what we've heard people describe it as. It doesn't also seem like it's going to play at other festivals either outside of Toronto, which is, I mean, neither good nor bad. Flanagan mostly has a relationship with Netflix, but they have a bunch of films, and I don't see this being a priority for them in the award season. Could be wrong about that as well too. I just feel like Flanagan has a massive fan following, and he's especially for his adaptations of Stephen King's works. And I think that it was the perfect marriage and also audience for that specific film. And so I know everyone sat there last Sunday trying to like move the math around to, to try to make it work. But unfortunately, I don't think that the math is mathing here, and it won't get in anywhere. Like, and or it might not even come out this year. It might be buried into February or March. So because, that's sometimes what happens with his films. So I think that it's the more interesting conversations actually are in the runner-ups categories with Amelia Perez and Anora, like we talked about, because I think that The Life of Chuck is that's nice. Again, it's another like good job, Mike Flanagan. You got this, and it felt like almost like a hometown kind of vibe. Like what you're saying for Reitman there, Sophia. It felt like the audience was stacked to enjoy the Mike Flanagan movie there at the premiere. So
Well, and
I
he
don't
was
know.
doing a few like in-persons and
Yeah.
pre-screening things in Toronto. So the it was being laid, you know.
Honestly, I would not be
Yeah.
actually the one festival I would not be surprised that it showed up as Fantastic Fest in Austin. They have like 5 secret screenings. I would not be
Mm.
surprised if it is there and then also is picked up by that point, because
And
it
it's
still doesn't have a
possible.
home. Yeah, it's very
All
possible.
very possible. But
Mhm.
I think what people are doing, and I can understand because one film in 15 years has not uh made the best picture cut that's won this award. And Toronto knows that. Cameron Bailey knows that and has really positioned the festival to be uh a big Oscar push and even a jumping off point in a place where that used to be Telluride, and that's kind of fallen out a little bit. But I think people are also really twisting themselves into forcing a place for the life of Chuck rather than kind of going through to the path of less resistance of maybe reality. I don't know. Sometimes
Well, it
these kind
makes
of things,
sense.
it sort of breaks people. It breaks their mode
It has
of
to be picked up.
predictions are and what they should be. So they're looking at this list of 10 possibles and going, who am I going to take out so that I can put Life of Chuck in? And it's like, try less.
Yeah. And it's also, I mean, I know the winner stat is there, but if you look at the trio of movies that go, most of the time it's two. And we have Amelia Perez and Anora right there, which we all have in our predictions. The other thing too is this just it frustrates me sometimes as someone who predicts the Oscars and does cover them, but also really enjoys movies and not just the punditry part of it, is that why can't this award just be an award? Why can't it just be what the people at Toronto liked? Why does it have to be a Best Picture prediction?
No, I mean,
So,
like, it's like what
yeah.
we talked about with Venice, like
Hmm.
2021 and 2022, those films were not nominated for Best Picture. That's like 5 years then, or 4 years, no, 5 years wrapped in between those, with four before and then Poor Things. But that doesn't mean that The Room Next Door is now we can lock it in. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
at least The Room Next Door has a distributor. Like, we know who is campaigning that. And, movies are getting picked up left and right. And it's starting to get very stacked on people's dance cards as to who's going to take you to the prom. So, like, where is this? I mean, like, Erik, to your point about, like, what do we do here with this movie? I mean, I think an audience movie, you mentioned Michael's Telluride blog, a big audience film that was both at Venice and over at Telluride was September 5. And that was picked up by Paramount Pictures. And that's a
Hmm.
movie that older members of the Academy are going to love. And I think people like that. I think Life of Chuck probably leans more towards the younger demographic. And there's so many other, and I'm not trying to like divide things up, but it just doesn't seem like, where would the support for that movie be? Where would that be in categories?
Yeah,
Where is, if
exactly.
also, if this movie was so big, I would be hearing transcendent work from Tom Hiddleston or Karen Gillan, or the screenplay is phenomenal. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, we would hear these glowing praises for certain things. Most I heard was like, Tom Hiddleston dances and it's delightful. And I'm like, okay, cool. I can see that on TikTok. Like, that doesn't mean that it's getting nominated for Best
Or
Picture. So I
Graham
think that,
Norton, the
yeah,
best Tom
exactly.
Hiddleston dancing example.
Exactly. So it just seems like to me, like some of the films that they had last year, honestly, where I know that Anna Kendrick's Woman of the Hour is about to premiere on Netflix. That feels like a movie that's perfectly going to be placed in October. People will find it on a streaming service like they do most Mike Flanagan work, and it'll be very successful and very popular. That does not mean I'm going to see that bald head at the Oscars. Okay. So
Well,
I just want to know if any cats are harmed in the film.
seriously,
wait, it's a Mike Flanagan movie. Come
I
That's what
mean,
I'm
yeah,
saying.
And
exactly.
isn't there like a cat on the front of the book cover of the
But
book?
to your point, Ryan, yeah,
Sorry.
you have to look at this as a winner and go, okay, so what else do we have here? Uh, Look at American Fiction. It did extremely well, and won
5
an Oscar.
Oscar nominations for that
The
movie.
Fablemans the year before.
Score.
You have to kind of look at that part of it and
Belfast,
yeah,
The
that's
Green
Hmm.
Book, these movies
real
that,
paths.
come on. Like, you have to think about, like, this would need to be an across the board contender. It would need to be picked up by somebody. It would need to have really a focus on its primarily because it's a very unusual film to put in the race. You
Yeah,
know what I
and I'm
mean?
I'm
So,
actually I'm so
and I'm
absolutely
okay for
ready
that.
for something to disrupt that
Yeah.
statistic
Hmm.
because it's going to happen. It happened to Telluride. They had a wonderful run, and then the last 3 years have been absolutely not because
It
the
changes. Like,
yeah,
times and things
things change.
change. You know what I mean? Like, it's
Yeah,
okay.
it's
You
it's
know?
great. Uh, the other thing that came with Toronto are the tribute awards that they give out, which are not it's not a competitive thing.
Yeah.
But Amy Adams was awarded
Mm-hmm.
the Performer Award for Night Bitch.
Presented by Denis Villeneuve.
Yes. Mike Lee got the Director Award. Jarrell Jerome got a Performer Award. And
Angelina Jolie.
Jolie did, not for performance, but for her activism. But this is Toronto. It is also for performance. Everybody is there.
And she had her film premiere there.
Yeah, as a part of the
festival
of the race.
Kate Blanchett.
Yes. But she's not a part of the race this year.
Well, I mean,
she had a TV show, but she's not
rude to not mention her.
Yeah.
Just
sure
have to mention her whenever we can.
It's Kate. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Don't give me that side eye.
But no, I mean, I only mention those because they are a part of this fall.
Yes, no, for sure.
Oscar conversation in varying degrees, because the actress race is actually a lot of fun.
It's stacked.
Yeah, it's so crowded.
Yeah.
And I don't know entirely still how Amy Adams, if she fits into that and what that looks like. And I don't think I will be able to have a good opinion on that until I see that movie, because that trailer was something else.
It's something.
I mean, the trailer made me very excited to see the
movie
because it was so out there. But
Yeah.
it's also then you hear responses from TIFF, and people were saying that the trailer was completely different than what they actually saw. And I think, it's those sorts of out there performances where you're acting like a dog or acting like a baby, they can get you wins. Sometimes it's not out of the question. So I'm not ready to write her off completely. But I think from what I've heard and from little clips I saw, she doesn't seem too concerned about the race or about, entering that sort of campaign. She just seems really passionate about the project, which is, I think, always a good thing. But yeah, we'll see.
That's also the right thing to say.
Totally. Just like Bradley Cooper saying he'd rather have the Eagles win a Super Bowl than get his Oscar.
Exactly.
When you've lost that many times, it's really the only way to come across without sounding petulant.
While you collect your 95 tribute awards. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
So it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I don't really care, but thank you for this honor. It's, it's this nice gold paperweight. I'm very interested in it too. The reception for it was very mixed all over the place. That doesn't mean anything when it comes to getting her a nomination. I mean, for God's sake, she was nominated for Vice. So it doesn't mean anything there. I think also the Volpe Cup going to Nicole Kidman is very interesting, because last year that was kind of broken with, let's talk about a long-standing tradition of the Volpe Cup winner being in an actress race, and that didn't really matter outside of a Golden Globe nomination for Kaylee Spaney.
Speaking role, yes.
Exactly. Yes. And
R.I.P. Kaylee Spaney.
Exactly.
Should have been there.
Should have been there. But it'll be interesting to see how Baby Girl plays, if that's at any regional festivals, as well as that's also A24, and how they will market that film. I mean,
Christmas Day release, and Christmas Day this year is
Christmas just got a lot hornier.
Absolutely stacked.
Yeah,
it's a really stacked Christmas Day.
Exactly.
That's our family Christmas movie this year.
What are the other Christmas movies?
Nosferatu, A Complete Unknown.
Oh, well, easily it's a complete unknown for me. What are you guys talking about? Like, no, I probably Nosferatu.
It's an age gap Christmas for me. So let's go, Baby Girl.
But no, I mean, like, it is getting very stacked. I mean, you have, Mikey Madison, and you have Gascon, and you have these previous nominees.
I may be ready to put Madison at number one. I don't know.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. I've been thinking a lot about that, and if you think that movie is going to be your winner ultimately, then I think that has to happen.
Oh, I don't think it's not a win, but
no. But I'm just saying, like, if you are in that when we get down to the nitty gritty of it all, if she's winning, then that movie will probably win as well. And we've seen it cross over the last couple of years too, with those lead actor or actress categories and
Mhm. I
how they've
wonder if
leaned
there
towards Best
is
Picture.
maybe with Emma Stone having just won for this infantilized baby woman with long, straight, jet black brown hair, if there might be just a little feeling of, did we not sort of just see something like this last year?
Well, that
Because
didn't matter. I mean, like that doesn't matter. The weird out there performance winning,
I
you know, it's about camp. And I think that this goes back to real quick, and then I'm sorry, Sophia.
no, it's
I
okay.
think this goes back to the other part of the answering your question about the fall festivals and thinking about the fall festivals and not having a good answer for you a couple weeks ago and having one now for you, Erik, which is really a lot of these, obviously these campaigns build and we see the films in the fall festivals, but really what has adapted and changed is a little bit of what we talked about last year with Kevin about who, you know, when he was on one of the predictions episodes and he talked about who do people want to see in the room,
yeah,
and the Q&As and the Q&As and parties and things during those seasons, that October to December timeframe, the busiest people during that time frame have over the last couple of years shown to be the ones that take home some gold statues. And that was really when the Oppenheimer, obviously when the strike kicked off, you know, and we didn't have to have the strike anymore. That was when the Oppenheimer crew went into full effect, having Downey and Blunt and Murphy at pretty much every Q&A. We saw that with the Coda crew. We saw that a lot 2 years ago with the Everything Everywhere All at Once crew. And it's going to be interesting to see who and which films are the ones that do that the most, because I think that that will be ultimately, and I know that that's the whole point of it, but I do think that that is mattering a lot to the guilds, the voters, SAG, and the critics, maybe to a lesser extent. But you know, we know of some events that are already starting, and for these festival films that are coming out that had these weird things like the Conclave, you know, no people at Telluride for the cast for Conclave or at Saturday night at Telluride, but then they all show up weirdly at TIFF, but then they both of those movies had very muted responses, like and yet the cruise for Anora has shown up everywhere. The same for the Brutalist. Like it'll be very interesting to see. And Amelia Perez, especially, has been the one that have showed up everywhere, and they are winning over the hearts of people in those theaters, getting standing ovations left and right, which is very, very telling, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Amelia Perez was exactly where I was going to go when you said that about the cast that people want to spend time with. I think Carla Sofia Gascon is hilarious. Selena Gomez is in the movie. The way that Zoe Saldana speaks about everything is you
Passion.
are just caught up in every word. And I think that's going to really matter with voters and throughout the season. But I think going back to Erik, what you were saying about, did we just do this? I think that Emma Stone's performance is very, and I'm going to limit my commentary because I did that for a whole year, but it's very acting school. It appeals to like that kind of over the top nature. And I don't think that that's what Mikey Madison is doing in Anora. I think it's really just kind of like, look, and there are some similarities I could see, but I actually think that kind of thought would hurt Amy Adams more
I
than it would
agree.
hurt Mikey Madison. It's that kind of like, oh, I'm playing pretend, like that idea of look at me transforming into this, animal or a baby. Also both redheads, not,
But also,
not so much in the movie, but and then I think with Anora, what's important is the similarity that we could track historically is, when you're predicting in an acting race and it's close, you go with the film that has the bigger advantage. Poor Things, that was right in front of us. It ended up collecting so many awards. You look at The Favorite, right? Like I'm using the Yorgos Lanthimos examples, but like that I think could be Anora. compared to the star power of someone like Angelina Jolie, which Maria, while I love that film, Mike will probably get into. I mean, fingers crossed, costume design and cinematography, I think is like a fair bet. But as far as above the line goes, it's not as likely as something like Anora. So I think that does give Mikey Madison the edge.
She'd have to also be like a sweeper because, like, if it becomes those closer races, maybe, and that's because we have seen the last 2 years that be the case where the stronger film in Best Picture, because like literally one of them was a Best Picture winner, and it didn't matter that Blanchett won BAFTA or Critics' Choice or the Globe as well. SAG, and ultimately that movie being as big of a picture winner and beloved in the Academy mattered ultimately in the end. And the same thing with Poor Things, and we should have just gone with that. And now it's kind of like we go with it, but that thing changes over time too, because if, let's say, Angelina Jolie becomes a sweeper during the year, then being a Best Picture nominee, even if it's not the case, then it's like a, I wouldn't say it's a sweeper because it wasn't that case, but then it's almost like a Chastain, where it's like this is this career win, and we're giving it to this veteran actress, even though she already has one. We already know that, but that's where you could see maybe that wrinkle. But the chest, I know. I know that's not the same thing, but like, and unless it's a really fractured year, like during the pandemic where everyone was winning one prize and we just didn't know where the hell we were going. And then that went back to the film that won Best Picture was then the winner for Best Actress. So,
and the last couple of years have been really fun for actress, as we've had two contenders really kind of going lockstep with each other most of the way with critics. I don't know. Yeah, I think the last 2 years have.
Yeah, no. I was saying, I was trying to think of the comparison. I guess it's more of a Judy comparison, right? Would be the right move if she had to sweep the entire season.
Oh, you mean Jolie?
Yeah, Jolie or Adams or somebody like that. You know what I mean? Because I don't expect those two films probably to get into picture.
To the end of the race, but I would be hard pressed if anybody was very competitive with Madison with the critics this year.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Really surprised.
I think she will be the critics leader.
Big sweeper with critics.
Yeah, no, for sure. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can easily see it. Like she's the critics' darling and favorite. You know what I mean?
And maybe we're swinging back to giving it to the ingenue. That was a trend in Best Actress for a really long time until recently.
For like
forever.
30 or 40 years when that average age was 29 for so long. And it really was I think Julianne Moore kind of broke that a little bit. She became only the second woman in her 50s to win Best Actress, which is
crazy,
absolutely fucking insane.
Well, isn't like was Brie Larson the year before or after that?
After.
Okay, so yeah,
and then that kind of
and that kind of ended it right there.
It's I think it might be in that era once again.
Yeah, it's just also just an insanely stacked lineup, and I mean also too, I go back to it in terms of this category. They love people that are based on real characters, and they also love their favorites. So as many newcomers we want to put in here too, we have to remember that they like to play it safe too with certain nominees as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it all shape out, because I know all the people also too, critics wise, I could see even though I love the performance and I think she's very good in the film, I could see like some Demi Moore votes for the substance as well too, being some out there critics prize winners. That would be cool. You know what I mean? That would be cool too. Or maybe a Zendaya for challengers, like different things. But yes, I do see I totally agree with you, Erik, on the Madison stuff. I think she's going to be the overwhelming
maybe Moore
favorite.
can get the ARP grown-ups movies.
You'd have to get the ARP. You could. No, that's Robin Wright's Locked and Loaded, baby. All right.
Yeah.
But actually, speaking of Demi Moore, that is.
You're welcome.
And in the interest of keeping this podcast under an hour, and before we talk about ourselves, next week we're going to talk about The Substance and Demi Moore, who is a contender, but I think in the real world a little bit on the outside, because it is going to be such a difficult watch for many viewers.
I don't know what you're talking about.
For lots of reasons, but honestly, good and bad reasons.
Erik, I thought you were actually going to transition over to the 2 announcements for AFI.
Oh, that's right. We got to sneak those in there before we finish. Damn it. Ryan, do you want to actually do that? Please.
Well, absolutely. This is a dream to announce these, but they were already announced, so whatever.
Let's just keep it under a minute.
Okay. So we have been speculating for a while about 2 films in the awards race, and that is, of course, Robert Zemeckis' Here and Clint Eastwood's Juror Number 2. And surprise, surprise, the AARP Awards have come to the AFI Film Festival, because we're not only getting the John Williams biopic to kick off the whole festival, but we are also, the centerpiece film is Zemeckis' film Here, which is his collaboration follow-up with Robin Wright and Tom Hanks. Since first time they've all been together since Forrest Gump. And then the jury's out, baby. Closing night at AFI. Clint, Nicholas Hoult, Toni Collette, Juror Number 2. Finally gonna see what that movie's all about. Can't wait for them. They are gonna be must-see events that the AwardsWatch editorial team here is gonna see together. And I gotta say, I'm weirdly excited for Juror Number 2. I think that could be a very interesting film because Clint's not acting in it. And usually those are the more interesting films lately in his filmography, minus The Mule, obviously.
That just means we just won't likely have any 3-ways.
Well, that's Nicholas Hoult.
Out of the question, though.
You would hope if Nicholas Hoult. Come on.
Let's go.
Let's go. Come on, Clint.
I texted Ryan on June 25th. Does Here feel like an AFI premiere?
What did I say?
And he said, "Oh my God, for sure."
I don't think there have ever been in the history of AFI 2 movies that were orchestrated and built for AFI.
I think they listened to this podcast.
Number 2 and Here. I mean, it's you could have. It's just it all makes such perfect sense.
But those are like the last 2. There's 2 of the last big films, because then after that, it's. I mean, if you want to count Nosferatu in the race, or Wicked, or Gladiator 2, those are like the last 3 big films, big titles. Well, I guess A Complete Unknown as well. Those are the Mount Rushmore of titles we have left of films.
Yeah.
Those are the handful of things that aren't going to have any festival run like we do have every year.
Every year. Yes.
I still have been hanging on to this, like my conspiracy theory with Nosferatu at Telluride, which was so wrong. But I keep thinking of, will A Complete Unknown do what Tick Tick Boom did with the AFI screening and just have a special screening there?
That's one of the best screenings I've ever been to in my entire life, by the way. That Tick Tick Boom at AFI. Absolutely.
Well, this will one up it if it happens, obviously.
Nosferatu.
A bunch of people singing Bob Dylan in the audience. I don't know if I can.
A lot of like this. No. I do want to say again, 5 secret screenings at Fantastic Fest. It's not out of the realm for it to show up there. I've seen crazier things. They're spread out more as premieres rather than just like 4:00 in the afternoon screenings. So keep an eye out from people. I mean, like, that's why I think Life of Chuck will be there, and maybe some other horror movies. But I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. They have pulled out crazier things in the past. So keep an eye out over there.
All right. And with that, Ryan, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me getting a bagel and a slice of pizza in New York the next 2 weeks. But you can also find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at Ryan McQuade 77. But yeah, if you see me at NYFF, probably have my headphones in. So just say hi to Erik instead.
Sophia, where can people find you?
You can find me in the press line at the Walter Reed Theater for the next few weeks, where it will be a live reenactment of the Marshall McLuhan scene from Annie Hall every day as we overhear great conversations. You can find me on Twitter at Sophia_Sim, on Letterboxd F.A. Dunaway. You can find my podcast, Oscar Wilde, wherever you listen to podcasts. We did a little festival recap similar to this one that will come out at the end of this week, and then more Oscar coverage all year. And then you can find reviews, interviews, more podcasts, of course, at AwardsWatch.
Oh, quickly, I forgot to mention Director Watch this week. The episode is To the Wonder with Brian Tellerico. Please go 5 stars, iTunes, Spotify, and also sign up for the newsletter on the website, because I have to say that because I've feared Erik would forget.
Yeah.
So.
And you can probably find me dead under a subway next week, because I have not been to New York in 20 years and I'm going to be an absolute rube the entire time. It's a good thing that we don't use paper maps anymore, because I would absolutely be that guy with a giant fold out paper map just waiting to get his ass beat.
Can't wait to see it.
That you can find me on awardswatch.com and on Twitter at awards_watch, awardswatch everywhere else. Yes, please subscribe to the newsletter if you feel the need to do so. And yeah, I'd love to have more comments and ratings on the podcast. I never asked for that. But sure. Yeah. Let us
Be
know
careful what you ask for.
like. Let us know what you don't like. I won't pay attention to it, but let us know anyway.
Just say Erik in the comments that you don't like.
That's fine. I can take it. Really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can.
I'm good to go. Yeah, with that, like I said, next week we'll talk about The Substance and Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley, and I think we'll probably have a lot to say about that. And until then, thank you everyone for listening. Bye.